Hi, for this month's vlog, I thought I'd talk about what we're seeing here at SHL in terms of the changing dynamics of our customers' business and what they're asking for in terms of some of the people answers that they need throughout this period that we've gone through of the global pandemic. I think in the first instance, most organisations were mobilising their internal resources to respond. Now we've seen a period where organisations are starting to make more strategic, certainly more mid-term and longer-term type decisions. And some of those decisions are different from what we saw before this crisis began. The first area is really around transformation. Now, most organisations are using this period to either accelerate transformations that were already underway. Many organisations are having digital transformations, and the real need to drive that through the whole of the organisation has increased. So most of those programmes have accelerated. But also organisations taking this time to look at how they might want to reorganise their leadership and what capabilities they have there for the future in the new environment, looking for different skills and the new skills that they need in, and how do they hire those skills in, such as technology and coding skills in conjunction with that digital transformation. But then also several organisations now coming to us to ask questions around how they align resources and restructure their organisation for the mid to long term. Obviously, some of that is driven by what will now probably be an inevitable recessionary period that we'll go into, and organisations really getting ahead of that and trying to make the right decisions around their people sooner rather than later. And I think as government subsidies start to drop off, we're going to see that increase ever more. So the first area is really about that continued and increased business transformations. The second one is really around a shift for consideration around the workforce. And what do I mean by that? Well, lots of organisations are trying to make themselves more human, being more human to their employees, thinking about remote working and the impacts it has on people, thinking about well-being, thinking about work-life balance and how that impacts not only productivity but also well-being, and what's the support that they need to put in place for their employees. So we're seeing a lot of activity around those areas of organisations really becoming more human in their approach to their employees. The second area is really diversity and inclusiveness. So organisations have increasingly been looking at diversity and inclusiveness. I think the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter campaign has increased the amount of momentum around this whole area. And certainly we're getting a lot of inquiries from our customers about how can they improve their processes, how can they eliminate and reduce bias within their hiring decisions, within their promotional decisions, and across the whole of their organisation as well. And both of those two things are really leading to some organisations rethinking the culture that they want and the values that they have within their organisation as well. Again, all of those are big people questions that organisations are looking to address. So business transformations, and then looking at the workforce. And then the third area is really a little bit more specific to SHL, which is we're seeing a lot of organisations taking this opportunity to consolidate the vendors that they use for human capital management. Now, obviously, some of that is driven by overall cost reductions, but also a lot of it's driven by organisations wanting to build strategic partnerships through this period. Human capital within organisations is absolutely key over the coming months and years, and they really want to have deeper partnerships with organisations who can really help them understand those people questions and provide the people answers that they need to do the digital transformations, to transform their workforce, to make sure they've got the right culture and values. So those are really the three areas, primarily on talent management, that SHL is seeing. If we look at talent acquisition, it's slightly different. Most organisations have some reduced level of hiring. I think that's not unusual, but we are seeing some organisations almost the opposite, going for mass hiring. Having lost a lot of their employees, having furloughed them for a number of months, needing to get large chunks of the workforce to be rehired into those positions is obviously a big challenge for organisations. But also, how do they do this virtually? How do they make sure that the candidate experience is still a great one when you're not only attracting, but you're also assessing, you're then interviewing, you're then offering and then onboarding all in a virtual environment. So it's important for customers to make sure that that candidate journey is as good as ever. And we're seeing organizations take this opportunity to look at their end-to-end hiring and talent acquisition systems and processes and see how they can really streamline them. And I think it's going to be interesting on talent acquisition as well. We've lived through many years where obviously there's been a very low unemployment. To get candidates to apply has been very tough for hiring teams. We're about to go into this period where obviously the recession could drive, or will probably drive, numbers of people unemployed up. And therefore, a changing dynamic where there are more candidates out there than potentially the positions that the organizations are looking to hire into, certainly in the short term. So from an SHL perspective, as I said, increasing amounts of activity around talent management and talent acquisition very much changing and evolving to the new environment in which we operate. I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to catching up with you next month.